Hey, do you want to come over and make a pot of tea, bring your favorite crystals? We could talk about our birth charts, spirits, the latest house spells we've been doing. Welcome to the neighborhood. I'm that witch next door. Hello, my wonderful witchy neighbor. Welcome to another episode of That Witch Podcast. I'm Danny, that witch next door. I'm going to be your host and interviewer today. I am so excited to be bringing you our guest today. This is someone that I have 100% talked about on the podcast multiple times. I've referred your work and linked to you multiple times. Aubrey and I have followed each other for honestly many years now, which is so crazy to think about. And I'm just so excited to have you here. So, Aubrey, if you would say hello, and also our tradition around here is, would you share your big three with us too?
Oh, yes, I love that. Okay, so hello. Hi, Danny. Thank you so much for having me on here. I'm super excited. As you said, we have followed each other for 4 or 5 years. I don't know. Yeah. We're obviously very familiar with each other. We're big fan. But yes, I'm super excited to be here. I am an astrologer, an tarot reader based out of Denver, Colorado. I also was one half of the team that created the Oracle of Pluto deck, which has been out for slightly over a year now. I have my book coming out, which is also another collaboration with Rose, who unfortunately could not be here with us today. But my big three, I am a triple Libra.
Oh, that's right. I love that about you. And I love that we happen to be able to record this during Libra season. You are all going to hear this a little bit later, but it was very meant to be that we're recording this during Libra season. Absolutely. I love it. So Aubrey and Rose both released the Oracle of Pluto deck. If you're a listener of Moonday Musings, you've definitely seen the Oracle of Pluto deck because we've used that for our weekly card pull many times. I am a patron follower of Hades and Pluto, and specifically Plutonian work. I am my Pisces moon is in my 8th house and is exactly trine my Pluto in my 4th house. So I am Pluto girl through and through and through. Yes. Yeah. And I was so excited when your team reached out about your guys' upcoming book, The Cosmic Symposium, because as soon as I even briefed the table of contents, I was just like, yes, 1,000 times yes. This is the kind of book that needs to be on astrologers' shelves, whether you're new, because this could really be used as a great learning tool. But also, even if you're a very, very seasoned astrologer, I love the concept of your book because it is a completely fresh take on working with the planets. So, Aubrey, first, will you give us a little introduction to what the Cosmic Symposium is that you and Rose are creating?
Yes. So, the Cosmic Symposium, I'll try to keep this as succinct as possible. It's so funny because with knowing that this book is coming out in a week, I've been okay, I have to figure out how to explain the background of the concept of this book in a very succinct manner that people can grasp onto. But so essentially, this book is written through the lens of or inspired by a theorem from our pal Pythagoras that is called Musica Universalis. And you may also hear this referred to sort of in modern terms as the music of the spheres or the music of the planets. And essentially what it is Pythagoras was like, hey guys, literally everything in the universe has a sound. And we know that sounds are vibrations. And so it therefore follows that our planetary bodies up in the sky are vibrating and making their own sound. And they must sort of come together in harmony and form this kind of ethereal orchestra that means and does things and affects us down here on Earth. And so once I discovered this like very beautiful but not that well known theory from Pythagoras, I was like, oh my God, this is like the perfect metaphor for the birth chart. And sort of exploring the different archetypes, energies, symbolism, mythos of each of the individual planets and points. And then as we can sort of tie them all together, your birth chart therefore becomes like your own personal musica universalis, your own cosmic symphony.
So poetic. And I feel like you did a wonderful job of explaining it. Because exactly, as soon as I started just dipping my toes into the copy, I was like, this is so helpful on so many different layers. I am a huge fan of layering and utilizing different types of analogies to work with our archetypes and especially in our astrological studies and interpretation, because obviously, especially on a surface level, astrology is insanely complex and it only gets more and more complex the deeper that you go. And it's these really familiar, tangible analogies that completely unlock it for us and take away all this complexity and help us just really align, especially in this case, with its vibrations, which this is how we actually embody our astrology. I think that this is one of the biggest gaps right now in this huge surge and trend in astrological exploration is a ton of people are feeling this pull and this call to learn and not knowing what the hell to do with the information itself and just like, okay, what does this mean? Why should I get a reading? Why should I do a reading? Why I don't understand how to actually use this forecast. And it's in using concepts like these that make that completely intuitive. You don't have to really think about how you embody astrology. You just start embodying it when you really, really align with it like this. So, my first question for you is before we really go into the depths of the Cosmic Symposium, especially since she can't be here, I would love it if you would just give us a little introduction to how you met Rose and where your guys' work started and kind of where it's been taking you both together.
Absolutely. So, Rose Ides, my very fabulous creative partner, who is like the most talented, prolific artist in the whole world. Love her to death. She is a Pisces sun, Capricorn moon, Leo rising.
Oh my God, I love that. I love that.
No, I like, and she has like so many Capricorn placements, and they're actually all in her fifth house of like creativity. So, anyways, as far as like how we connected, honestly, it's very similar to like how you and I connected, right? We just sort of found each other online. Okay. We had followed each other, I don't know, for a couple of years. And then randomly, like Rose posted on her Instagram feed with this concept of the shadow puppets, which we see now in the Pluto deck. And basically she was like, hey, I'm like wanting to make an oracle deck. Here's the concept that I'm like thinking of with the artwork. And I'm really looking for somebody to partner with to do the writing portion of the deck. And I was like, yeah, it's bet. And like, I just so happened to open Instagram like mere seconds after she had like posted that. And so I sent her I sent her a message right away and was like, hey. And she was like, shut up. I was hoping that you were going to be the one who responded to this and blah, blah, blah. And so like, it just sort of like happened and unfurled, in this very sort of like natural, easy way. I told her like going into it, I was like, well, like, here's the concept that immediately comes to my mind when I see your artwork. What if I write up a meaning for one of the cards and I send it over to you? And if you think it's good, then like we can move forward in our talk. And she was like, yeah, okay, and so I wrote the description for the goat card. That was our first one. And I did it because of all her Capricorn placements, right? Because I also, when we were connecting, I was like, well, I need to see your birth chart and like make sure that we have good synastry and we'll be like,
absolutely.
So, anyways, obviously she liked it because then we ended up creating the entire deck together. Um, and then, like honestly, and I've told her this before, but like working with her is one of the like smoothest, most like natural, easy working partnerships I've ever had with anybody. And so, once we kind of got through doing the Pluto deck, we were like, okay, well, what next? And through a series of events, like the Cosmic Symposium was born. And, I sort of talked her into it by saying, because it's a book and running press, kind of came to us and was like, yeah, like just put as much illustrations in there as you want. You can sort of do whatever you want, right? And I talked her into it by saying, this is your chance to really like highlight your versatility and all of the different types and like styles of art that you can do, and to have this honestly like tangible portfolio that you can kind of like go out into the world with and be like, look at how brilliant I am, right? So the rest is history from there.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I especially how you describe how easy and smooth the work. This is like just totally universal guided work together. Like just out here doing the Lord's work, man. And do we appreciate it? So where did the idea really come from for the Cosmic Symposium? Is that something that was born between the two of you? Was that something that you had been kind of mulling over? Where did that come from?
So originally, after we did the Pluto deck, we had the idea to do an entire set of decks that explored the different archetypes and energies of each of the planets. And, we were like, okay, well, we have to come up with sort of like a title for this set of decks that would, sort of be the like all encompassing whatever. And Rose was the one who kind of came at me with the Musica Universalis idea. And so, of course, I'm over on the computer, like, like Googling it and looking it up. And I was like, yeah, like, this is so beautiful. I love that idea, and I can absolutely sort of like immediately intuitively understand that metaphor, and how it can be applied across the board with all of the planets. So we pitched this whole set, right, to Running Press, under that title.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of came back at us and they were like, hey, like we don't know about doing an entire set of like 10 decks. If you wanted to move forward and create a deck that feels like a response to the Pluto deck, whether that is like Venus or I don't know, whatever you feel like that is, then like, yes, we're totally prepared to move forward doing that. But then Shannon, who is our acquiring editor, kind of came back to us and was like, what if you turned all of this information into a book instead? And I was like, yep, let's do that, because like my own like personal writing goal is to be an author turning out books and not necessarily like writing the guidebook for decks, and so it just sort of became this like natural evolution, right, of sort of like our partnership and what we were doing. And again, like I said, I sort of immediately saw and understood the metaphor and was like, oh yeah, like so easy to just turn that into like a book instead. So yeah.
Oh, it's so, so cool because, first of all, a deck on each of the planets. Now that would be cool.
Listen, I still think it's a good idea.
It is a slamming idea. And yes, I feel like this was so meant to evolve into a book because I'm telling you guys, there is so much in here. It is jam packed. It's so beautiful. We have in that witch school, I did a daily cosmic witchcraft series where I use the daily planetary rulers of each day of the week to really dive head full first, like just into one planet at a time and working with the energy of that planet. And that's one of my favorite things to do in astrology is like zoom in like
Mhm.
that, like really zoom in and focus on single details like that because there's so much in just each planet. And so as soon as I was going through this book for the very first time, I was like, this is it's exactly where my inspiration came from for the Daily Cosmic Witchcraft book because I think that it's so easy to read this list of planets, right? That's your chart. And it's just really easy to read this list of planets and repost the memes and get really, especially since like last week it's this planet moving, next week it's this planet moving. Like it's just so easy to stay a little almost too zoomed out.
Mm.
And there is so much purpose and learning each planet is responsible for giving us. And I love how each chapter, each planet in there goes so deep into purpose, traits, energy, associations, ritual ideas, tarot card questions on top of the musicality of all of it. So share with everyone where the musical piece really comes in and lifts this off. Like where, especially in those finer details, where does this really lift our astrology to a different level?
So there is, in each chapter, each planet has like 3 songs that we assign. And, you know, I sort of had the idea to do that of like, okay, well, if we're like including our own, obviously, sort of like subjective associations of the songs that kind of like point to the energy, the archetypes, whatever, of each respective planet. Once you put it all together, then the book has its own musica universalis, right? It has its own like cosmic orchestra. And it felt like a unique way to sort of like elevate the experience of the book, right? To make it more, not necessarily interactive, like, yes, interactive, but I think like more tangible, right? Like I am such a person, an ardent advocate for the fact that like all of the spiritual concepts that constantly get talked about and explored and spouted online, like you have to know what to do with it.
Yes.
Like people always say all these like heady, nebulous, abstract things. It's like, okay, so what?
Right.
Like how do I apply that in real terms in my daily life? And I am of the opinion that being able to do that is that bridge, right? Kind of between like the ethereal, the otherworldly, the whatever, and like what's happening here in our sort of like tangible, mundane lives. And that's what makes it mean something. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like that's what,
Mm-hmm.
that makes it do something. And so I felt, and like I recognize also that like not everybody is going to like retain information through reading, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think lots of people are auditory learners. And I feel that, you know, having a playlist in there that people can go, which like Running Press turned it into a playlist on Spotify. So like you can actually just go onto Spotify and search the Cosmic Symposium and it like brings up the whole
So cool.
playlist. And I feel like it's just like another way for people to start like connecting the dots, right? And really kind of understanding like, okay, here's what like the energy of this planet like means and represents and the feelings that it evokes, because also in our brains, you know, once we're making these kind of like neural pathways connecting our feelings, and feelings being the most powerful way to do that, right? Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent, but I thought that it was sort of a unique and helpful way to kind of bring in a different element. And then, of course, as you said, there's like ritual ideas and tarot card pulls and whatever, which again is another like sort of tangible way to be engaging with and connecting the dots and having it become more like solidified in your understanding.
Yes. This is so important. And I think that those of us that are really passionate about bridging the gap that you're talking about, a lot of this comes from, again, this massive surge in popularity and trend of astrology and spirituality has these really beautiful, like very redeeming qualities about it. And it comes with these massive byproducts of people just spouting, like really turning into human word fountains and just like spouting out all of this information. Some of it downright not helpful information, and lots of it, lot more of it, honestly, the vast majority of it is just like flying over heads. It's not necessarily harmful information, but it's like it's so much that it's just flying everywhere. I can't tell you how often I come across people reading whether it's a chart for a certain moon or an astrology forecast for a week or whatever, and it's just this onslaught of information, all pure celestial, just literally reading the chart and saying lots of these really like very airy concepts, right? These very intellectual, living in the mental space, like it could mean this, it could mean this. And the truth is, my friends, this is where a lot of our snowballing into fear mongering in the astrological community comes into big time. And Aubrey is one of my fellow don't stop telling people not to do rituals during eclipse people. Oh my God, because my God, every single eclipse, you'll hear me clap back at every single one. Because again, what happens is we give this information for like an eclipse, for example, and it's just this really vague, the energy is very unpredictable. I don't know about this. And exactly what you're saying, but what am I supposed to do then? What am I supposed to actually do with this? What do you think this, what is your hope, I guess, that this book like really targets as far as some of those issues in the astrological community? How do you think that this can help people?
So I think like the very nature of where I come from with all of my work is like trying to educate people, right? Like trying to make information and concepts and whatever more accessible, right? To people, again, making it more tangible for people. And one thing to understand about me, my Mercury's in Virgo. Like I'm not gonna speak on something if I don't like I'm not educated and don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. Okay. So unfortunately, there are a lot of really bad astrology takes out there. If I had $1 for every time I saw something online, like every single day, where I'm like, that's actually not accurate. I think my hope is that it just becomes this kind of like foundation of understanding for people. And of course, like the approach that I took is sort of different because it's really approaching astrology through the planets and not through the signs, which I think my hope again is that that's like very helpful because I feel like people enter into astrology like through the signs and their qualities, and then they kind of like move into the planets, and then they move into the houses. And so, but I think like my view on it is like, while we may not have planets in every single sign, we all have every single planet. Right. And so I think like really understanding what the role of each of these respective points and placements and like do in the chart is going to kind of lay that foundational energy that people for some reason like sort of start to feel confused by when they start trying to match up like, oh, my sun is in Capricorn, but my moon is in Gemini, like, so yeah, I think that's really, really my hope.
I love that a lot. It's one thing that I've been really feeling lately is like we need to talk louder than people that are talking every single day and very, very loud about these really vapid or just wispy approaches to astrology, where it's just like not easy to actually grasp onto. It feels very gatekeepy, like you have to come to me to get this information translated. Whereas I feel like astrologers like you and I, Aubrey, are like, you already know all of this, and I'm going to help you like dust that off inside of yourself. So you remember, you already have everything you need to decode this language. We all have it. It's just a part of us. And I think that's why this connection to music is fucking perfect, because that is the human connection to music and to sound. We have this very natural connection to music. It's why I utilize like the elements a lot in teaching astrology, because we are already so intrinsically connected with the elements more than we often even realize. That I'm like, let's use the elements as a good doorway in here, because I'm telling you're going to understand so many more things if you start looking at it through this. And it's the same lens, or same way with the lens of music, where this is already a part of your nature. And if you just utilize this tool, I promise that this big cryptic, what seems like a big cryptic code you're trying to deconstruct, is actually already this natural part of you. So that leads me to my next question, which is, in your own personal journey to becoming a professional astrologer, when you look back, what would you say were the most difficult or frustrating parts of your learning journey that you wish you could go back and advise, or you do advise that of budding astrologers right now?
It's a great question. I think taking your time, right? I think something about our modern times that we live in is like the commodification, or the attempt at monetizing every single thing that you are interested in. And people have sort of lost sight of the fact that, first of all, you don't have to try to monetize every single thing
Mhm.
that you're like interested in. And sometimes it's okay to just like engage with something because you enjoy it and find it interesting. And I think people are like, oh, okay, well, I like picked up a tarot deck and gave one person a reading, so now I'm ready to go like get paid to do that. Or like, oh, I know the names of all the signs and planets and have this like very basic, level of information. So therefore I'm ready to become a professional astrologer. Like, actually, no. Um, and that's like, whatever. Okay. Like, that's fine. Yeah, I think like taking your time is so important. And astrology, like many other things that kind of fall under the occult sphere, it's a lifelong journey, right?
Yes.
So it's like, I don't really care how long you have been practicing astrology. Even when you're a professional, there's always going to be things you don't know. There's always going to be new things to like learn that will influence your approach, your viewpoint, your understanding, blah, 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 right? Like, and that's a good thing. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there will come a time in my life where I look back on the Cosmic Symposium and be like, wow, that is not my approach to astrology anymore, right? But yeah, I think just like taking your time and really, really making sure that you feel comfortable with what you know before trying to show up and interpret a very complex and nuanced chart to someone else. And I think it's important also to sort of perpetually be curious and perpetually have the like open mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And be open to learning, be open also to being wrong, right? Because we can't
Yes.
be open to being wrong,
Yes.
then we can't like learn anything new and become better practitioners.
Absolutely. I always tell people, I'm like, one of the most important things that people need to be really comfortable saying is, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Yes.
know.
Period. I like to scream that from the rooftops.
I
to people.
know.
Like, it's
Exactly.
okay to say you don't know.
Yes.
It is okay. I think especially if you're going to do something like being any kind of reader, any kind of practitioner, an inevitable part of that is having people that are going to, for some reason, think that you like hold the keys. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
the universe, and they're going to
Oh,
come
yeah.
to you. And they're going to come to you with all these crazy questions. And it's like, you have to be able to be like, hey, I don't know. And actually, that's like the more ethical thing to do is to say like,
Yes.
hey, I don't know, as opposed to trying to just like spew some weird whatever at people
Yeah.
because you don't want to, I don't know, like, no, just tell them you don't know. Like,
Yes.
even the most psychic person on this planet is still a mere mortal. You know what I mean? And like, that's okay.
Oh, beautifully said. It's so true. That's such a good point. I did an interview with another guest on the podcast, and she shared a story of this medium who was like in her 60s or 70s, had been practicing forever, and had a situation, went through a scenario where a spirit came through, and it was unsettling. It freaked her out, like gave her the heebie-jeebies. And she was like, it's just so refreshing to hear that reminder that people decades and decades and decades into this work get scared or don't know things or encounter the unfamiliar. Exactly. This is so important because I'm telling you, my friend, anyone in this space acting like they know it all or got all the answers or never says I don't know, red flag.
Yeah.
Run.
Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
No.
Block
Turn around.
and unsubscribe.
So fast. Question that shit yesterday. Question that yesterday. Exactly. This is so important that you're bringing up this concept of taking your time, though. One of the things that turns my stomach inside are programs and containers I see advertised from instructors that are like, learn your birth chart in 90 days. Learn to become an astrology reader in 4 months. And I'm like, here's the deal. The real truthy truth of it is, and I tell every single student that comes across, I'm like, listen, I could teach you all year and you're still going to have like plenty of a way to go after that. I am telling you, if it's the first and only dose of medicine you take patience. Please take patience. Yes. It's one of those things where I remember months, if not years, of this information not making sense, and finally the chart clicking and like realizing one day, oh my God, I'm reading it. I get what I'm seeing here. Like, here it is. And guess what? I still didn't start giving readings right when that happened.
What do you mean? No, but I think you bring up like a really good point to like keep going.
Yes.
Right? Just keep going. And it will one day click for you.
Yes.
It is like practice. Like, yeah, keep going.
1,000,000%. You're learning a language. That's the truth. It really is. You're learning a whole entire language. So it has been so cool seeing your continued success over the years, Aubrey. Seriously, I just have to say that. But what advice do you have for these budding spiritual professionals that are trying to start out or really struggling with that self-doubt or nervous to get their foot in the door and they're like, I want to be publishing something one day. I don't even understand how to like comprehend that yet. What advice can you give people who are in that stage right now?
Keep showing up. Right? Like, if you build it, they will come. Right? Like, I think something that people kind of constantly talk about is like the oversaturation of like at the market, right? The oversaturation of astrology, tarot, any type of like spiritual, witchy, whatever, okay, business. Like that's a scarcity mindset, first of all. Second of all, like, you know, I think it's like one of those things where I'm like, think about how many grocery stores are out there. Think about how many massage therapists are out there. Think about how many, I don't care, right? Like you name it. Like oversaturation is not like there's literally enough room for all of us, right? And like no matter what, like you are bringing your unique perspective, your unique take. No two readers are alike. And like there are going to be people out there that are like dying to connect with like you and your perspective and your gifts. And you just have to keep showing up, and obviously showing up like authentically as yourself. Even if it feels different or disconnected from what everyone else is doing, like all the better, it will set you apart. But yeah, I think just like continuing to put in the work, like 90% of life is just showing up. It really is.
So true.
And it's the same with like trying to build a business, a name for yourself, whatever. So yeah, like keep showing up and be yourself, and you will attract the right people. You know, again, if you build it, they will come. But it takes a long time to build clientele. It takes a long time, and like any kind of regular clientele also, like patience. And like, I guess that's easier said than done, but like overnight success is actually not a real thing.
No. And the truth is like any type of like, if you get a surge, for example, in client bookings because of a post that goes viral, guess what percentage of those client requests suck?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The volume might go up, but that does not equate to the quality at all.
Absolutely.
At all.
I actually think that like going viral online is one of the worst things that can happen to you.
I do too. And if you actually listen to a lot of businesses, they will tell you they either didn't see any correlation in social media virality to sales at all, or it only added a headache onto the whole entire thing in the first place because DMs went up, bullshit talking from trolls and stuff like that went up. Exactly. It's usually just more annoyances. In fact, put more protection around your business, quite honestly.
No, and I love that you're bringing that up because I think like vanity metrics are obviously something that people always think about, especially if they are trying to build like an online presence and all of that. And it's like, okay, like, yeah, it's great to be like, wow, my 3 million followers. But if exactly 0 of those 3 million followers are like buying what you're selling, no one's booking, no one's whatever, it does not matter. Like, wouldn't you rather have like a solid group of 500 followers and all 500 of those people are booking, buying, whatever? That's way better. That's way better. And also when you go viral online, I'm sorry, but like you attract, like you said, more trolls, you like attract more people to you that actually like aren't aligned. Those are not your clients. Those are not your community. That's like, whatever. Like, yeah, it's taken me like a while to really like understand that and having like my own experiences with having like a few posts go viral and stuff and then being like, ew, like everyone get away from me. I don't want that. So yeah, it's actually better to like go slow, start small. It's more manageable, especially if you're doing something where like you are the only person running your business.
Exactly. You don't have access to a team who's flagging all those messages for you. Exactly. Take it from me, who has a Taurus in midheaven, slow and steady, my friend. You know, did you grow a few followers this year? There you go.
Okay, and like my Cancer midheaven, that's like, it has to be safe. Like it has to be safe and like a small group that feels like your family. Like,
yes. Oh my God, that is I love that so much. And this is, I'm so glad we went here because I've personally got to see your journey as well as a content creator. We're all content fucking creators. And this is so important because Aubrey, you're such a good example of someone who's like, listen, I hear you that the platform's making X, Y, and Z changes, but like this, and this does work for me. This and this doesn't fucking work for me. So here's what I'm going to do now. And if you like it, cool, follow. If you don't, bye. Um, I love that about you in an age where we are being inundated. Even if you're not following them, you're getting ads.
Yes.
For us, if you're a small business, you know you're getting ads for social media coaching and all that. You come across it everywhere you are and everywhere you go, no matter what trade or craft you're in your entrepreneurial path. You get these ads, and of course they bring your attention to those vanity metrics, and they start out with something like, did your last post only get 10 likes, or like whatever, little thing they're trying to get you to say. That's because you're not posting enough reels. That's because you're not dancing to the trending audio, or whatever fucking bullshit they're trying to get us to swallow. So Aubrey, over the years, you've made your relationship with social media work for you. How? Tell us how. You know what I mean? What advice do you have for the people when it comes to that? Because it is so easy to get wrapped up in that bullshit.
So I would like to preface this with the fact that like my relationship to social media is an ongoing, perpetual like learning curve,
For all of
perpetual
us?
like
Yes.
evolution. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like when I started out, I absolutely was one of those people that was like, I need to have so many followers and I need to okay. I think a lot of it, like we have to, again, I'm just going to keep talking about how we have to give things time. Apparently that is just the theme of this conversation. But, I think so many things are literally a matter of time. And there has to be a certain amount of time that elapses and the experiences that go along with that really help you to hone in on like what works for me, what doesn't. And it's so much of it is trial and error. It really is. I think I've never been a person that's like, I need to show up online perfectly.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm going to like throw this out there. And if it works and it sticks and it feels good, then like, great, I'll keep doing it. And if it totally flops, I won't, And I think also maybe like approaching social media from a space of like, hey, it's not that deep.
Yes.
Okay. I think this is like so my like nodes in Aquarius and Leo, and the 11th of the house like coming through right now. But I think like a certain amount of detachment around it, honestly, and being able to kind of keep that perspective of, like I said, it's not that deep. Like it's social media. Like I know the internet is like the third space where we all hang out now, but like being able to ground yourself into like your real physical life of like what is actually really happening right now in this physical space that I'm in probably has nothing to do with what's like going on online or not. Okay. But I think also because like you wear all of the hats, right? As like a sole proprietor, one person business owner, you have to figure out what's working, what's not. Right. Yeah. And I used to be the person that was like, oh my God, I have to post every single day. Sometimes I post like multiple times a day. Like I just always have to be online, chronically online. And like, no, like first of all, that's not healthy. I don't recommend that. But second of all, I think just like over time, it became obvious to me, like what the value was and was not from like social media. And like for a long time, I was in a space of, like I said, like posting every single day, feeling like I had to talk about every single transit, and my DMs would just like blow up with people. And if I wasn't posting, I was like getting trapped online in all of these conversations with all of these people, like all day, every day. And at a certain point, I just like hit a wall and was burnt out and was like, okay, no, like this is not sustainable. This is actually like making me miserable and not bringing me any kind of like joy or value. And unfortunately, I don't think people were coming at it from this place and like, or having any kind of like malintent behind it, but it would sort of inevitably like bleed over into people basically getting free readings.
Yep.
Right. And having to really get serious and sort of constantly and regularly in perpetuity assessing like boundaries and having to readjust what those are and what's working. And I think I also had to get to a place of realizing, like, if I do not post online today, my business isn't going to burn to the ground.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if I go a full week without posting online, everyone hasn't forgotten about me and unfollowed me and like
Mm-hmm.
left me, you know? And so I think obviously, like, it's going to be a subjective experience for everyone around what works for them and what doesn't. But I do think maintaining boundaries around social media the same way that maybe you would maintain boundaries at like a regular 9 to 5 job is
Mm-hmm.
like key.
So true. Absolutely. It is very, very important because it is this tool. We're pretty much all utilizing that tool. And I mean, as long as you do have those physical boundaries, like with your own time investment, and like I said, put your protection wards up around your phone, around social media, around your business. My goodness, put the spiritual filters up. I swear, I tell people all the time, you're practicing witch, put up your wards around your technology. It really, the slower the growth that is still continuous is a beautiful marker of success. And I think so many people really need to remind themselves of that. One of the most helpful things a friend said to me many years ago now is, we look at a post and we're like, oh, this only got 40 likes. And she's like, picture all 40 of those people standing in a room saying they liked your post.
Oh my God, Danny. No, that's something that I like spout all the time.
Yes.
I love that you're bringing this up. I really do. Because like social media has completely skewed our idea around like numbers. You know, it's like, oh, for example, with the Pluto deck. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, publishing houses have numbers of sales they'd like to see, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I would like go in and be like, okay, we've only sold 7,000 copies of a deck. Picture a room full of 7,000 people. Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
That's like so many people.
It's huge. Think of a stadium with 7,000 people.
Yes, amen.
That's a big fucking stadium.
No, literally
with 7,000 people.
I'm glad that you're bringing this up because that's so real. Or even being like, oh my God, I only have 500 followers. I'm sorry. Put yourself in a room with 500 people. Are you going to be like, oh, it's only 500? You're going to be like, I'm overwhelmed by this.
Exactly. Go speak in front of 500 people in person and tell me exactly and say it's only 500 after that.
Yes.
Exactly.
No, I love that.
Whether it's 4 people that signed up for your program or 100 people that liked a post or whatever, I completely agree. Really humanize your experience with social media. Recognize that you're a human interacting with other human beings, no matter how much it tries to take our humanness away and desensitize our humanity between us. Remind yourself of it because it actually can be, if you're using social media the right way, it can be this really validating, supportive network. It really, really can. And that's one thing that I love about, I've seen your relationship with it shift over the years because we get hit as small business owners with these new updates and the way the algorithm changes or whatever, and the way you get different things you do that now get you shadow banned versus not or whatever. And it's inevitable that eventually it makes you feel like, Jesus, I'm always doing this little dance. But if you approach it yeah, they're always going to be adapting, but I'm also always adapting social media to work for me, then those things don't throw you off that much. And by the way, I also call so much bullshit because time and time again, Instagram's like, you're supposed to do this to get more views. And then I'm like, I post a static photo and those still stand as my most engaged posts. So I don't know where these pretend. So just go with your gut. Exactly. Do what you like on there.
Yes, exactly. I think, I so agree. I feel like there's actually no real rules to social media. And so again, as long as you're showing up authentically, if you build it, they will come. And I'm with you.
Yeah.
the static posts are the one for me. Like,
Yeah.
I loathe video content. I'm sorry.
I know.
I have so much respect for people that are out there like
Oh, yeah.
making crazy
Because I
cool
love watching
video
it.
content.
I'm a consumer of it.
Yes, I'm losing hours of my life watching video content. Yes, I am. But that me, no. Sorry. Like, and I think that's the other thing too, is it's like, dude, I'm a writer. I
Yeah,
am a
exactly.
writer. I don't
Yeah.
want to get on the screen and be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, no, I want to write. So yeah, totally.
Aubrey, my final question for you is, where do you hope your work in the Cosmic Symposium is taking you? Where do you hope you're going from here?
It's a really amazing question. I mean, I think obviously anytime we create anything and we put it out into the world, of course you want it to be popular. Of course you want it to be successful. I think, again, because I'm always a person that's like genuinely coming from a space of like, I'm just trying to help. I hope that people find it helpful. I hope they find it useful. I hope it does, like, you know, educate them, expand their own understanding and knowledge. And I hope that people love it. You know, I hope they pick up the book and they're like, wow, this is so pretty and so cool. And, you know, it's unique and unlike something, you know, anything else that's kind of out there. And, you know, I think like my goal, like when I was a kid and they're like, oh my God, what do you want to be when you grow up? My only two answers I ever had were a princess and an author. So, like, the jury's still out on the princess part.
Quoth the Libra, quoth the triple Libra.
I'm like my South Node in Leo, right? Like, I just want to be a princess.
Don't forget that one.
Yeah, so like that, like princess, it could still happen, I guess, but like the chances of it happening are probably pretty slim. And so I think it's just been like the most fulfilling thing for me to be like, I have done little Aubrey proud. Like, I've really done the thing to like make her dreams come true of being an author. And you know, the Oracle of Pluto was like this sort of beautiful launch pad, I think, being able to sort of like move more into the author space. And now here comes the book, and we'll see how it does. And, you know, I secretly already have 2 other books that I'm under contract for. But yeah, so we'll see.
Oh, that is so incredibly exciting. Share with us where we can find you and Rose, where we can find Cosmic Symposium. Hit us with all the details.
Okay, so the Cosmic Symposium, obviously you can find it at hachette.com. And then there's like the link to all of the other sort of like major retailers that are on there, which are going to be like all the obvious ones, right? Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're all on there. And you can find myself on Instagram at Aubrey C. Houdeshell. You're going to have to look up my name to make that, one happen. But yeah, so I'm on Instagram, I'm on Threads underneath the same name. I am on Substack underneath the same name. I have a Patreon that you can sign up for. And then Rose technically has an Instagram account at Ides of Rose, IDES of Rose, though she has largely stepped away from Instagram. And so she too has a Substack that you can sign up for. I'm so sorry, but off the top of my head, I'm not sure if it's also Ides of Rose or if it's something else.
Okay. Everything's in the show notes, so that's good.
Yeah, okay. Like you can find it definitely like in her bio on her Instagram. And I think that's kind of all she's doing right now is the Substack. But I know she's sort of like very intentionally moved away from Instagram and more onto that like Substack space.
Beautiful. Nice. Yes. For all of this information, you will find links directly in the show notes below, my friend. Aubrey, it has been so good officially having you on the podcast. This was an amazing conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate you bringing me on. It's been a joy.
Yes, this was so, so good. Thank you for joining me. And neighbor, thank you so much for your time today, for joining us as well. Again, everything is in the show notes below. Don't hesitate to reach out to Aubrey, to Rose, to myself, if you're interested in anything more. We are all happy to, trust me, talk up Cosmic Symposium and honestly, celestial magic in general.
That's
So
right.
thank you, my friend. Make sure that you are staying safe out there. You're having fun. And of course, stay magical, my friend. Questions, comments, suggestions, or just looking for That Witch outside of That Witch podcast, make sure you're following me on social media over on Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and Twitter. You can find links to all of those in the show notes below. And make sure you're subscribed to my email newsletter by going to thatwitchnextdoor.com and submitting your email on the homepage.